What is going on? It is lightning round. It is Kevin Tompkins. It is Britt Flinn. We are going to be drafting a best ball Mania 4 team today as Papa Coop gets pictures taken today. You know what? I don't blame him. I wouldn't want the wrath of the wife. So Britt, it's you and me, man, in the ship. It worked out well last time in the FFPC Pros vs. Joes, but how are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. Super busy. Always training camp news just keeps like pouring in, and depth charts have been released. So let the or the depth chart panic set in and begin. And Lana Del Rey is tonight. So super stoked about that.
That's pretty awesome. And then so we got a little piece of news. It's not like fully official yet, but the Saints are kicking the tires on Kareem Hunt, looking to sign him as long as physicals and all health is good. So I'm sorry, that does nothing for me. Like they lost Eno Benjamin to an Achilles tear, and they're going to replace a fourth running back with a fourth running back. Like, does he move the needle at all for you?
Yeah, it's a little confusing for me because out of all these free agent running backs, I expected him to be signed last just because I thought that he had the least amount to offer. Um, but I guess it kind of does because when Kamara comes back, what's his role going to be? You know, is he going to overtake Jamal Williams as like that between the tackles guy? Because we've seen him do both, right? As a pass
Yep.
catcher and as kind of like a short yardage guy. So does that affect Jamal Williams and or Kendre Miller a little bit more? Very interesting to see. And that's something that I'm going to be watching in preseason.
Yeah, I just don't know if that moves the needle for me though. I mean, the one thing that it does for me, it allows me to get cheaper Kendre Miller, which that's going to be almost the byproduct of that, and maybe even cheaper Jamal Williams, which I'm fine with. Kareem Hunt, I think, is probably locked in. If he wasn't going to move up anymore after what we thought was going to be a 6 or maybe 8 game suspension turned into 3, he really hasn't moved that much, at least on Underdog. I foresee the other two guys maybe going down with the Kareem Hunt news, and maybe Kareem Hunt turns into an 18th round guy. That's kind of what he was anyway, but maybe he gets drafted more in the last round or two. But I'm here for the Jamal Williams. I'm here for the Kendre Miller bump.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to end up being the end result, but you can never count him out. And who knows, with these, you've got kind of two older guys and then a young guy who are mixed up behind Alvin Kamara. So who knows what the Saints are even going to do with that situation. And that's my concern with that. But I mean, we'll see. It's going to be
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, and that's the best part about, you get these signings and stuff. And it's funny because who had Kareem Hunt getting signed before Fournette and Zeke and Dalvin Cook? Like, we saw what Marlon Mack and Kenny Drake get signed, and now it's like working like lowest to highest. It feels like by perception as far as these running backs getting signed. But it's kind of wild, honestly, that Fournette and all these other guys are still unsigned, yet the Kareem Hunts of the world are getting jobs and just trying to muddy up these backfields.
Which kind of tells you all you need to know about how the running back position is valued in the actual NFL. They're just trying to get out there, grab the cheapest guy possible, and then just fill a hole in their roster. They don't want to pay like these, I'm not even going to say elite guys, but these former elite guys. It's so wild. Just can't deal with it.
Yeah, I can't either. And that's what we want in fantasy is we want to be able to get these ambiguous backfields. Like, obviously we have been drafting a lot of Miami Dolphins and drafting a lot of Chicago Bears, even like Washington, Philadelphia to an extent. Like, all these ambiguous backfields are great for us drafting because we know maybe one or even two of these backs are going to come out with roles, but we don't have to pay the premium prices to find out who. I mean, the highest of any of those running backs that I mentioned is probably DeAndre Swift, and that's in like a low 7th, high 8th round pick of all those guys. And that's not even counting backfields I didn't even mention.
Yeah, 100%. I think that the ambiguous backfield is something that people really need to study. And if I'm not mistaken, you have an excellent article in the Fantasy Alarm Draft Guide about contingent backfields, ambiguous backfields. Hint, hint. If you're interested about reading more, go check it out in the Fantasy Alarm Draft Guide, fantasyalarm.com/draft, and it'll be updated up until the start of the season. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more, go check that out.
That is as professional a segue as I've ever seen on any airwaves, let alone these airwaves. But yeah, the car system, if you will, contingent, ambiguous, receiving, and standalone. I profiled all in our late round running back article. You can find that in the draft guide on fantasyalarm.com. We have the 104 right now. So
Mm.
I think 104 through 106 is the best spot to draft in because you're still getting an elite top end player. And then you're still getting at least whatever's left on the turn. I mean, we're not going to get shut out of really any position. So I like this out of the 104.
Yeah, that's been my favorite spot to draft. Typically, in historic drafts, I've liked the middle. Part of that is because I'm so impatient. I don't want to wait 20 picks for my turn to roll around again. But the more and more that I do these underdog drafts, these best ball drafts, I found that being either at the beginning or at the end is where you really are able to find a lot of value and you're not bound by ADP. You can kind of figure out and build your roster the way that you want to build it. And Kev, I think we're going to go maybe a little off the walls and crazy here today.
Yeah, let's absolutely do that. We'll see what comes to us here, Jefferson Chase. We'll see what happens. I do see one of your familiar faces, our familiar faces, at the end of this draft here. Grim, I believe you know him, Grim Sellers. Is it? Is it?
Oh, that Joker's in here. That guy's in here. All right, we're on the
Yeah. What?
clock.
We
So
think about Cup, Hill, Kelsey, Eckler.
I'm super high on Hill. Honestly, any of these guys. Yeah, I think I would go Hill. I think with the offensive line and Tua taking those classes, he's solid. And then Cup
Yeah,
has that hamstring injury. So I'm kind of like, I don't really care if you say that you're day to day. I'm still a little bit worried about a 30-something-year-old receiver with a hamstring injury.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the downside on Cooper Cup, where I was drafting him at 103 ahead of CMC and Tyreek Hill, and the market kind of did that too. They flipped, probably in June or so, at least Cup and Hill. But now with this hamstring injury, it's kind of giving some pause there, where people are taking CMC, and you can get Cup, maybe a pick or two lower, but there is always that risk because Cup is 30 years old, and the offense pretty much flows through him. So they're really hoping for a second option. I mean, I guess Tyler Higbee, if you want to call it that. But as far as the wide receivers, it's Cup or Van Jefferson, I guess, if you want somebody that's going to chase off a safety. That's pretty much all there is. So I do like Cooper Cup. I am still taking him in PPR formats. I'm not as worried maybe as the consensus is about the hamstring, but that is the downside that you have to kind of weigh if you are going to take him.
Yeah, and the reports that Matt Stafford was actively being shopped around the league, that they were interested in trading him, also kind of just intrigues me a little bit as well. Like, do they want to shop him because of his salary, or do they want to shop him because they don't feel like he came back from that elbow and that back injury okay? So those are the questions that we desperately need answers to. Hopefully we'll get them as preseason and training camp moves along. But just interesting all the way around.
Yeah, definitely interesting. So we see some running. Barkley and Chubb into the first round is
Hmm.
a bit interesting here. I will say this, Underdog, like, where's my badge? I've got more than 500 drafts in me. I need that badge for as much social media clout as I can get here. I'm already behind the eight ball here. Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown going 2-1-2-2. Tony Pollard jumping up in the 203. So we're seeing some interesting stuff here. Maybe a little different texture than we're normally used to, with some guys flip-flopping here, but really the same cast of characters all going in, kind of different order, but it's the same result. We're still staring down the barrel of probably a Derrick Henry, Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle as we come back here.
Yeah, I think so too. It is interesting that Chubb has moved up into the first round. I've loved Chubb for as long as he's been in the league, but the big knock on him is that in PPR and half PPR, he doesn't catch passes. As soon as that news came out, everybody is like, he's going to be a pass catcher. Let's move him up. And he has jumped from late second to late first. I mean, he is It's crazy how much his ADP is flipped. But in a big tournament like this, again, you can't be bound by ADP. You've got to
Right.
kind of take those swings on the players that you believe in, because that's going to differentiate your lineup from everybody else. If you draft by ADP, you're going to have the same lineup as every single other person in that spot. And
Right.
so in this big tournament, you want to make your lineup different. You want to kind of go out on a limb.
We're back up here. Sorry. Did you want to go?
I'm fine
What do you
with
think about
Henry.
big? Yeah, I was going to say, let's go big dog here. Look at that. 2 Texans matchups in the week 15 through 17 playoffs. So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I don't want to at least make sure. Yeah,
that's good. And another thing that I will say about Derrick Henry, I feel like a lot of people are off of him because of their offensive line problems. But then you hear that Mike Vrabel wants Chigakonkwo to be better at blocking, that he wants everybody to be better at blocking. That's going to be the plan. You know, it doesn't really matter how the offensive line works out with Derrick Henry. He might not be the best at, yards after contact or whatever it is, but they're going to find a way for him to get a couple yards downfield here and there. And I think with DeAndre Hopkins opening up that defense, the boxes aren't going to be stacked against him like they have been in the past. So maybe they get a little bit of leeway with that, pretty bad offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the rub on Derrick Henry, is that he's going to clearly see a lot of 8 in the box. But is that offensive line going to be able to hold up so he can get, he's going to get a lot of yards before contact. We're back up here. I was going to float out Jonathan Taylor, kind of maybe go a little hyper fragile. I'm still good with Ramondre here because, I mean, we're into August now. We know the Patriots have floated out wanting to bring him back in, but they haven't yet. What do you think about Ramondre here in the third?
Yeah, I definitely like Ramondre. In our bold predictions article that's coming out on Fantasy Alarm in the next week or two, I might have something spicy to say about Ramondre. So we'll just a little teaser there.
Look at that. We got the segues. We got the teasers. This is like, Britt, did you go to Newhouse in the past week? And, what happened? I mean,
Wait, what's
Syracuse
Newhouse?
is going to come call it. Syracuse's journalism school.
Oh, no. No, I didn't. But,
no, I didn't.
But, I do have a minor in strategic communication. And so maybe I've just been brushing up a little bit on the undergrad things.
that is strategery, if you will. I wish we had that clip loaded in the hopper. We do not, but you know what? I will have to put it in there for next time. Through 3 rounds, we are Tyreek Hill, Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson. Couple running backs more than I'm used to, but you know what? We're trying to get a little different texture here in this draft. And usually with like a hyper fragile kind of thing, with like Mike Beers did that on RotoViz, came up with the hyper fragile strategy where you're going to take multiple high-end running backs and then just kind of stop, maybe take 4 max. So getting Derrick Henry and Ramondre definitely satisfies that, but doing that in the second and third, and then maybe taking another back that we think is going to have, kind of that legendary upside, if you will, with an anchor wide receiver. And then we can take some in volume and then kind of figure out tight end and quarterback. I do like that. I think that's certainly a way to get unique in the field. If people are going to be taking wide receivers, we can just take them in volume here. So, definitely like to start.
It's definitely different than anything that we've done in the past as a group, because again, it's like pulling teeth with you to get running backs, right? But I think that this build is super fun. Like you mentioned earlier, the correlation with Derrick Henry in weeks 15 and 17 against the Texans. Insert Wolf of Wall Street meme. I mean, that's perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for in these big tournaments. Now we just have to figure out a way to get to the postseason and get to week 15 and 17. But with that anchor wide receiver build, I think that we're well on our way.
Yeah, I think we would honestly like the kind of, if we had taken just running back, and then a wide receiver, like we'd be in Calvin Ridley. Yeah, we'd be in like that Calvin Ridley, Christian Watson, that kind of tier. I mean, I know they went, but Mike Williams, I think that'd be a tougher pill to swallow as your wide receiver 1 versus taking Tyreek and then going the 3 running backs. I think going this way and kind of doing it this way, which is a little bit different from the typical hyper fragile start, I think it worked out really well, or is going to work out really well.
I do too. All right, so who are we looking at here? Well, I honestly like Drake London or DJ Moore or Christian Kirk or Ayuk. Honestly, any of those four, I think that they've all got huge upside in one way or another.
Yeah, I like London here, and we can always play that third running back later too, and still do the hyper fragile. I think that would kind of lock us into doing a fourth running back, maybe a little bit earlier. Like usually with like the hyper fragile, you can take 3 and then take like a gap, kind of the guy to fill in the gaps, maybe like a I don't know, like Chuba Hubbard or like a Jeff Wilson or something like that later. But you could probably bump that up a little bit if you take your third running back a little bit later than you typically do, where you can maybe get like a Jerick McKinnon to kind of fill that gap. And then, you're set as far as bye weeks, you're set as far as, just any kind of projection error or anything like that. So ETN would have been really nice. I think he would have been kind of locked into that if we're going to make a bet on Jacksonville, which I mean, I really like Jacksonville this year. I know Calvin Ridley's kind of steaming up boards here.
See, I'm not on board with ETN as much as everybody else is. If you look at his efficiency metrics last season, his touchdown work from 10 yards or less, I think he got like 1 touchdown from that area. With Tank Bigsby entering the mix, I'm just not convinced that ETN loses a lot of that touchdown equity to Bigsby. And bringing in Calvin Ridley, I think that his receiving work is going to go down as well. So he might be the guy, who picks up yardage, but we've seen time and time again that running back carries are not worth what running back targets are. And if he can't get into the end zone like he has in the past, I'm a little bit worried about his production.
Okay, so I don't know what just happened. It literally just auto drafted Mike Williams, and we weren't on auto draft, so I'm confused there. But okay, yeah, it just literally bypassed us and went to Mike Williams. So I'm going to turn autopilot on and then turn it off because I don't.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't. It wasn't set on, so I was going to float out Aaron Jones there. I mean, if we
that's what I was actually going to suggest on the next turn, but we will roll. I mean,
we still have 3 wide receivers. We can still play it. 2 running backs. If we don't end up getting a third, we can still play the hyper fragile game. Like there are running backs that we are projecting to get volume, and if they surprise, then I mean, better for us. I mean, we could even play it with a Miles Sanders. We could even play it with a probably Madison ain't getting back to us, but I think there's a chance that one of Akers, Miles Sanders goes. Good Lord.
Yeah, and look who took him.
Yeah, I saw that. I was talking about it on Twitter today about Carolina's offense, how I just don't. I mean, I know you're into Miles Sanders as well. I just don't see a world where they win more than like 4 or 5 games with their offense. I know they have a great offensive line. I still don't see Miles Sanders really doing a lot in that offense when they are going to be down. And maybe a full PPR, maybe I could understand that if we're bumping up the receiving work that he was a little bit more efficient at last year, but I just don't see it. Like, talk some sense to me, Britt.
Yeah, so I think that we're looking at Carolina's win total, which is, I mean, admittedly fairly high at 7.5 for a rookie quarterback. But if you look at their line, if you look at what Ike Ekwonu has done, who was one of the best run blockers on the line in last year's class, and now he's had another year to develop, I don't necessarily think that they're going to put all this pressure on Bryce Young to just pass. I think that they're going to try to control time of possession, and a big part of that is with Miles Sanders. We've talked time and time again, a good tight end and a good running back is a rookie quarterback's best friend, and that's what they've got Miles Sanders there to do. I just think he's going to have a lot bigger role. It might be that confounding situation where when they're down, we're like, why are you running the ball? You need to pass. You need to catch up. But they're trying to take some of that pressure off of Young. And Sanders is going to have a big part to play in that.
Right. So I wrote the article on why you shouldn't draft Alexander Madison at ADP, but he's not at ADP. He's a full round after.
Yeah.
So I'm fine taking Alexander Madison here and,
Y-
playing the fact that he could just crush in volume.
Yeah, I think that discount helps a little. I'm still not sold on him, but if you look at, I think I rather would have taken David Montgomery here. But with that built-in value, if he's durable, right? That's the big knock against him, that we have
Right.
such a limited sample size of his starts that we don't really know if he can hold up to that humongous workload that he's going to get. But if he can, I mean, he should be decently efficient. Um,
R-
we'll just,
Right.
it's the off-season part of if. I'm so tired of saying if. I'm so tired of it. I just want to see real football and get some real stats and data in the mix.
Ex- exactly. Like, trust me, the athletic profile isn't that exciting. The fact that he couldn't wrestle more work away from Dalvin Cook is concerning, but I think just the getting a round discount on him mitigates some of those concerns where I would much rather draft him at the end of the 6th round versus the end of the 5th round. So, I mean, it doesn't alleviate all the concerns, but I think it makes you feel, I shouldn't say better, but it's really it's less of a risk, I guess.
Yeah, definitely taking somebody or an entire round after ADP makes you feel a little bit safer because you're not
Yeah,
paying that premium ceiling that we were looking at.
right. If Madison can play 19 Detroit Lions for 17 games, I think we'll be good.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't think they're going to be that way this year. I
I
think their
don't think
defense is going to
so.
be a lot better.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right.
So we've got some options here. Tight ends kind of picked over. So is quarterback. Could probably figure those guys out late, but what do you like out of Pickens, Quentin Johnston? Do you like a wide receiver here?
Man, Pickens has really been making some big waves in camp. And I don't necessarily know how I feel about Pittsburgh's offense as a whole, but in a best ball, all he needs is, a touchdown to fit into the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Pickett's. I mean, we're really hoping for the Kenny Pickett year 2 bump. I mean, we saw it last year where Trevor Lawrence was left for dead when the kids were running the program in Jacksonville, and they know it's not the same thing. But we've seen these year 2 bumps out of quarterbacks that have really that we thought were disappointments in year 1, and we're getting such a discount on a guy like Kenny Pickett, and we were getting the discount last year on Trevor Lawrence too. So we know the weapons are there. We know that they've improved the offensive line. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, added Deontay Johnson, Pat Fryermuth. Like, this offense has weapons like that a second year quarterback typically doesn't have. Like, when you're taking a quarterback 20 overall, I mean, I know that's a little bit lower for the first quarterback in previous years, but still, you usually don't jump into a situation with weapons that are already made for you with a long tenured head coach who's had a lot of success. You're usually jumping into like what Bryce Young is, where not a rookie head coach, but a team that's obviously rebuilding. This team isn't rebuilding. So I think that, Kenny Pickett can certainly bump up in year 2. Deontay Johnson isn't going to score 0 touchdowns. George Pickens, Pat Fryermuth, like, I think this could be a situation where maybe the weapons lift up Pickett a little more until he can kind of do some of the lifting himself.
Yeah, I think the weapons are definitely going to have a better year than they did last year just because Pickett is going to take a little bit of a step forward. But now, if we're looking at Pickett as a whole, let's be real. That bar that he has to leap over is like on the floor. He
Yeah.
doesn't, he can't really get much worse from an efficiency standpoint. So I'm not necessarily looking at him to have a great season, but what I am looking at in these best ball formats is for his efficiency to tick up just a little bit and for them to like pop into our lineup from week to week.
Yep. Absolutely. So after 7 rounds, let's just go through our roster real quick. Tyreek Hill, Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds. Drake London, the curiously auto-picked Mike Williams, Alexander Madison, and George Pickens through 7. So 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers. I do like the squad. I'm a little curious. I mean, Mike Williams, I guess, was 7 picks after ADP, so I guess it's not a terrible thing. It's a good bet on the Chargers offense, but would like Darren Jones there, and then maybe Madison turns into another wide receiver. But we're playing the cards we're dealt with. It is what it is. We're back up here in a couple picks, so go to the full board here. Any thoughts here? Because I think there's a couple quarterbacks that stick out for me.
You know that stack is staring us in the face.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And I'm curious to see
We
Waddle,
both have one.
the Waddle drafter is here. So, but they do have Josh Allen. They
I
could
was
all,
going to
they could,
say,
yeah, that's where you kind of want to take a look and see if you have some cover, if he's going to go Allen Tua and then call it a day.
let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's see. The suspense is killing me.
We need what we need is a drum roll.
Yes.
Honestly.
Some little sound effects in the background. Yeah, man, they're thinking about it. All right.
I think we got to go Tua, right?
Have to. Beautiful.
I will take it. And Deshaun Watson kind of sliding a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to Watson. I think that having another year in the system and shaking the rust off last year, and then having another weapon or two, with Cedric Tillman, with Elijah Moore coming in, he's going to be a little bit better. And it was really cold when he came back. And people don't realize, like, playing in cold for quarterbacks is a really big it's a really big obstacle to their fantasy production for sure, because they're just trying to not turn the ball over. The receiver's hands are cold, the quarterback's hands are cold. I mean, it makes a big difference in throwing and catching that ball. So I think he's going to start off a lot better this year, but I could not turn down that stack.
Yeah, that's really hard to turn down. We know this offense is going to be just hyper efficient and going through Hill and Waddle, and we'll see who the third target in that offense could be. It could be A-Chain for all we know. I mean, we know they're going to trot out like just the random, like Robbie Chosen and Braxton Berrios, Durham Smythe, like that. The third weapon is not really a target. Like they're all getting undrafted in these best balls in 18 rounds. So I mean, the market is clearly honed in on obviously Hill and Waddle because they're top 20 picks consensus. But we're back up here. I think Bateman would have been interesting. I'm not as worried about the foot injury. At least he had to get a screw removed. So we're seeing some discomfort there. We are not drafting Alec Ingold, scampers. I'm sorry. Any thoughts here?
I don't hate Kadarius Toney after they said that he's going to come back for week 1, that he's going to be ready. I think his upside kind of outweighs the risk, especially in a best ball.
I think we got to take bigger swings here. Then that's when we're taking wide receivers in volume. I think when we have to kind of make up some ground, I'm totally in with taking just bigger swings. And we've got, Tyreek Hill's the obviously massive deep threat. Drake London, we're hoping that, that offense can uptick in efficiency as well. Mike Williams, we know that they're going to throw the ball a ton. George Pickens, we're hoping for just some efficiency spike. And then Kadarius Toney, we're just stay on the damn field, dude.
That's all he has to do, right? I mean, that's all he has to do. He made Kyle Trask look good at Florida. That he's got the talent. He just has to stay healthy. And that's been the biggest issue of his entire career. Fingers crossed that this cleanup surgery, whatever it was in his knee, is really going to help him going forward. Because what we've seen coming out of Chiefs camp is that there are only 2 receivers that are really like solidified in a role. Yep. And that's been Sky Moore and MVS. Well, MVS is just a guy. We still really haven't seen a lot out of Sky Moore. We don't know what his ceiling is. So if Toney can get back out there, I mean, everybody still talks about that Dallas game where he just utterly destroyed the defense. He's got that kind of talent. And if he can stay on the field with Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback, it's going to be insane.
Yeah. I am concerned about the Kansas City, just those targets there. I mean, we've seen MVS is getting $10.5 million this year, which is I'm sorry, that's just wild. In open score, which we talked about in our wide receiver episode with Pat Kerrane, which kind of combines, how open these wide receivers are getting on every route, being able to catch catchable balls and yak. Going back to 2017, and that's like I believe 649 has receivers have been charted since 2017. MVS, his season last year was bottom 20 through that entire open score. Like of all of those wide receivers, bottom 20 last year. So whoever his agent is, I guess I want all these agents because we talk about wanting Devontae Parker's agent and MVS's agent. Like MVS is literally a jag. And if they can find a way to get out of that contract, I think they'd cut him tomorrow.
Yeah, $10 million for that dude is just insane. But that's how magical the Chiefs have been when it comes to working salary cap and contracts. I mean, I really want to know what potion they're using because it's kind of insane.
Right. So we are back up. I think I'm taking a look here. It's a little short on ADP for a tight end. I'm taking a look. Quarterback isn't too. We might have to just go wide receiver here and let something fall to us here. Totally fine with Nico Collins or Dobbs.
I like Dobbs. Yeah. I really like him. I like him better than Collins just because I think that his upside's a little bit higher. And I'll be totally honest, I'm buying into the hype that Jordan Love has developed a connection with him. And there isn't as much target competition in Green Bay as there is in Houston. There's all these guys in Houston. Granted, they're all about on the same playing field. It's Robert Woods, Nico Collins, John Mechie, Tank Dell, whole bunch
Noah
of
Brown.
Noah Brown is there. Noah Brown, man. The cause of half of Dak's interceptions last season, I swear. Catch with your hands, dude. But I think that with Dubs, there's a lot higher ceiling with him.
Agreed. So a little prophetic, Chekhov's McKinnon in the background of here. We talked about him. Do we want to take him and be done with running back here?
Yeah, I'm good with him or Pirine. But I feel like McKinnon probably has a higher volume offensive situation. You're like, let's just roll the dice. Let's see how it works.
Right? If we could just do a random number, John, I'm fine with either. Do you want to take your pick?
I've been taking equal numbers of both. So you make the pick.
Down with McKinnon. He fights off Father Time for one more season.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And generic Prince.
Yeah, sweet Prince. Hopefully McKinnon does not go into that good night. It's funny that looking at just some of the careers of these guys, like Samaje Perine was left for dead, and then he got a job with the Bengals, and now he's what he is now, at least a solid fantasy pick. McKinnon had dead legs 3 years ago, and now he's 32 years old in a Patrick Mahomes offense. So it's funny that these running backs, we think they're dead, and then they're just really not. But I think Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, Madison, and McKinnon kind of playing the hyper fragile a little bit differently. I think it's a really nice running back room, and I think we're good there. We do have Tua. We don't have a tight end yet. We have 6 wide receivers: Tyreek Hill, Drake London, Mike Williams, George Pickens, Kadarius Toney, Romeo Dobbs. So good room so far. We'll see what happens with tight end. We can always fill that out late too if we need to. And we got a lot of stacking opportunities there because we got a lot of later round quarterbacks there because we have Dobbs we have Love for Dobbs. We have Pickett. We have Desmond Ridder. We have, even if we want to go a correlation, Mac Jones. There's options.
Yeah, and I mean, Madison probably will have some pass catching work, right, in this offense, and even Cousins is floating around out there. Not super exciting, but somebody on a team with a bad defense who's probably going to have to throw quite a bit. I mean, Kirk Cousins, the thing about Kirk Cousins, he is not sexy when he gets his fantasy points. He'll start out the first half with at times -3, but then he always finds a way to come back and just put up these crazy stats. And it might give you a heart attack on the way there, but he somehow finds a way to get it done. And it's really infuriating, actually.
I
Well,
think
there
every
Cousins
single
goes.
there he go. Yeah, there he goes. I think every single fantasy football take that about Kirk Cousins has started with here's the thing about Kirk Cousins. Like, I don't think it's like, Kirk Cousins, we're drafting him at, QB5 this year, and here's why. That has never been a take that's ever been uttered by, I think, anybody outside of Minnesota Vikings themed fantasy shows, if they exist. I guess maybe they should. Maybe they do. I don't know. But I guess we don't have to worry about Kirk Cousins here, but we do have to worry about a pick and 3 picks here. So we do have 6 wide receivers. We don't have a tight end yet. Chikakonko is still kind of floating around there if we want to keep going on the Tennessee bet. And that maybe could open up Tannehill as well.
Yeah, I'm just worried about Okonkwo because of that blocking situation and the addition of Hopkins. I'm a little wary of him as like a tight end one. Honestly, I would rather have Dalton Kincaid. I think that the pass catching opportunities for him are humongous. Who was that? Komet? I can't read.
We
The
have
print is super
that was
tiny.
Komet. So we have Okonkwo, Everett, Laporta's out there if we want to just go say screw it and go Laporta and kind of bank on that.
Yeah, let's take Laporta. I didn't realize that Kincaid went all the way up in the 9th. Whew.
Yeah, that's I did not see that. I mean, I saw he was off the board, but I did not see he went off in the 9th. Good Lord.
Did you see who took
Well,
him? That was Sellers, wasn't it? It was Sellers.
what we will have to do is I will have to jump into this. I will literally just start the draft so he cannot get in our drafts.
I know.
We will not.
He took, I was like, who took Dulcich? And I was like, looking at the board when you brought it up, he took Kincaid and Dulcich back to back, which is, I mean, kind of genius. You're hedging your bets on like 2 really high upside players, but also it's infuriating when we've got somebody from inside the house literally doing the drafting.
We are trying to produce high tier content here, Sellers, and we're trying to get all of our guys so we can win. So we can all win $3 million here. You will be part of that. I mean, you are married to Britt. You're going to get part of that. We're all going to go have a giant pizza party somewhere. And what are we doing?
Totally. All right. Who's on the board for us now?
Chikakonko still. Let's see. Quarterbacks.
I hate that.
I mean, we're gonna have to take a few tight ends here at least.
Yeah, I would take a stab on him.
I mean, if he doesn't go, this guy's 2 tight ends, so we'll see. Jaylen Warren. I love Jaylen Warren. I'm gonna be like so overweight on him by the time the season starts. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm fine with Chikakonko here. At least he's our second tight end, and we can kind of mix and match upside plays here, and maybe a floor play later. We still have to have to grab a quarterback, but that also puts Tannehill in play. So, certainly you can go to go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think that it was better to take a tight end there before it thins out, because the tier break that we saw after Goff, Geno, and Cousins all went, that tier break is a big one. So we don't want to reach on that.
Yeah, I'm in all of my Palm 2 slows right now, and I'm in the 14th through 18th round in all of them, and staring down the barrel of Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy every time is enough to make your head spin. So I guess it seems like I get a lot of those guys just because I usually punt QB2 for the most part. I'm taking a lot of Purdy because I am taking a lot of Ayuk. I'm taking quite a bit of Debo. And then maybe some, I was taking Elijah Mitchell. I'm probably going to be taking Jordan Mason now quite a bit. I think that's interesting too, is that some of the beat writers in San Francisco are talking about Elijah Mitchell as a guy who could possibly get cut. I mean, it seems like Kyle Shanahan. I don't know if he's just like the most overly emotional and just out there head coach, but we're looking at a guy, he traded up for like what, Tyrion Davis-Price. He traded up for Dante Pettis. Yeah, Trey Sermon, Dante Pettis, like obviously Trey Lance, all these guys, and then he's just like done with them.
It's kind of crazy though, but it tells you, at least as a fantasy manager, we don't have to figure it out for ourselves. He basically lets you know. He bypasses the coach speak, and he's like, these guys are on my shit list. They're not getting any reps. They're done. Don't take them. And I will say, from what we were all gaslighted into doing about Trey Sermon because of the beat writers a few years ago, I don't necessarily trust all the information that's coming out of camp because he might be a little just cheeky with them. But Mitchell's injury concerns over time, I mean, he's already hurt. It's camp. He's missed a ton of time in his first 2 seasons. That's something that really worries me. We're worried about the wrong running back on San Francisco's roster being injury prone.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Kareem Hunt in the 14th round is just irresponsible, I would say.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that pick at all.
That's too that's too reactionary, I believe, to the news. I mean, I think Henry Miller is still out. Like, he's going ahead of him. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
This is your lesson to not overreact to breaking news, because there's always going to be somebody either in your home league, in a best ball, whatever, who is going to react to this news.
Yep.
Whatever we hear. Like the Roschon Johnson news. He's currently 5th on the depth chart. I would have rather had him over Hunt.
Yeah. I mean, draft me some trusted Edner. Let's go.
Yeah. Do like
Travis Homer. I do like him. Not gonna lie. So we have 5 picks left. We're probably going to go in 3 quarterback, 3 tight end here, but I mean, I don't know how you feel about Jordan Love taking him now. We don't have a San Francisco 49er, but we were just talking about Jordan Love, and we've got him with Dobbs. Do you want to take a shot?
Yeah, might as well. At this point in the draft, I mean, the tier breaks hard and fast from here. And, you know, we say that we're worried about Green Bay's offense because we don't know about Jordan Love, but what if he's good?
What if he's good? What if people go back into my tweets from late April of 2020 when I was talking about how terrible Jordan Love was as a draft pick? What if people go back in my tweets and look at that in December when Jordan Love is an MVP candidate? Like, what if? We just don't know. That is the prevailing theme of this offseason. We just don't know. So, what if Jordan Love is the guy you need?
And I think it's the thing every single offseason, because we were out on Seattle last year while we were super high on the Broncos. But I feel like this year more than usual, because we do have so many rookies. We have so many older free agents who are on new teams. We have 16 new offensive coordinators. That's half the league. We don't know how these offenses are necessarily going to run. So the uncertainty in fantasy this season feels, to me at least, like it's at an all-time high.
That's definitely a consideration here. My man, Luke Musgrave, who showed out on family night for getting a pass from Jordan Love in the side of the end zone there. Definitely like him getting every single first team rep there in that family night scrimmage that they did not televise in Green Bay because they did not want the competitive advantage for other teams to see what they're doing, even though pretty much it all leaked out on Twitter, so it was a moot point anyway. But we're back up on the clock here. So I will tab off of quarterback. I will switch us to the other screen here. Got to wait out Ryan Sherrard here. So we have options here. We can go tight end. We can go wide receiver. I think we're done at running back, and we could probably punt off quarterback. I would say we're going to have to take a third, but could just double down and take like Jaden Reed.
Yeah, if we're just going for that full-on Green Bay stack, I mean, we might as well. Because again, it's in this unknown region where we've got the unknown of Jaden Reed, but we've got like Richie James, Hunter Renfrow, like Isaiah Hodgins, just people who really don't move the needle in excitement for you. So in that situation, I think that I would rather chase that upside. And Dubs and Watson were hurt for a good part of last year. What happens if they get hurt? He might be one of those wide receiver handcuffs that we talk about who inserts himself into the offense and has a more prominent role in the case of injury.
Yep. Listen to this. All right. It's week 17. Vikings versus the Packers. Alexander Mattison is running wild. 240 all-purpose yards, 3 touchdowns. Jordan Love is like, you know what, guys, I got this. Jordan Love, touchdown to Jaden Reed, touchdown to Romeo Dobbs, another one to Reed, another 2 touchdowns each from Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed. We get 35 points from Alexander Madison. We're bringing home $3 million. Just say it.
Yeah. And, Minnesota's defense is kind of cockapoo. So,
What you said.
week 17, that's what you want. That's why we got Derrick Henry in that correlation with the Texans. And I don't think we talk enough about correlation and how much it matters, because there have been so many years in home leagues and best ball, whatever, where I've been undefeated through the entire season and then go into that final week 17 matchup and pull a Patriots with like a head catch for the loss, and that correlation with poor defenses with good matchups really does matter. And I think it flies under the radar a lot of times when it really shouldn't.
Yeah, I do agree. I think correlation is incredibly important if you're, especially in a tournament like this, where if you need to think about it with a DFS standpoint, where you need to be able to get as little right as possible. And if you hit the shootout game, like if we're playing week 17 and Minnesota Green Bay has like a 52 point over under, and this game just absolutely shoots out, like that's what you want. That you want to be able to have that edge on the field where, maybe somebody has Watson and Watson didn't do anything. Look, Justin Jefferson didn't do anything in week 17 either. So that's kind of what you're looking for. Nobody really was, Mike Evans was not a high advance rate guy, but he crushed in week 17.
Yep, 100%. Who we got on the
We're
board?
back. Not great here as far as quarterbacks. I'm switching it back to, I'm sorry here. Might be a wide receiver pick. I'm fine with Richie James here if we want to just keep filling out wide receiver.
Sure. Yeah. We're about out of time. Never mind.
We got him.
Where is Musgrave sitting in ADP? I'm just curious where he remains.
He's 7 or 8 down, so I think we can.
That's perfect.
If Sellers gets it, I'm going to come over there, I swear.
I'm going to come out of my office. I'm going to throw my headset down. Y'all are going to see like that old cartoon, like black and white, standby with that. That's what's going to happen if Sellers takes Musgrave out from under us, because that is unfair, bro. That is unfair.
That is unfair. So right now, through 16 rounds, I will recap this for the audio listeners. Tyreek Hill, Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson starting on 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds. Drake London, Mike Williams, Alexander Madison is our 3rd running back. George Pickens, Tua, Kadarius Toney, Romeo Dobbs, Jerick McKinnon to end the running backs. Sam Laporta, Chig Okonkwo, Jordan Love, Jaden Reed, and Richie James. Solid squad here. I do like it. We probably will have to grab another quarterback and another tight end here to fill out the roster. But as constructed right now, quarterback might be a little bit iffy, not gonna lie.
What? I really do like Ritter though. I love that positionless situation that they're running with in Atlanta. Yeah. I think honestly, we saw that one training camp video where Ritter threw it behind Pitts and they're like, no, they both suck. But what people didn't see was that he was 8 of 9 on that drive. That was the only bad throw that he had. And I think out of these guys remaining, that he has the most rushing upside and most, thanks, Kev. We don't have to talk about it anymore.
we were already heading down that path anyway. So, I figured if it wasn't going to be him, we'd have to probably correlate. I guess we had correlation with Mac Jones and Ramondre too, but we didn't really have anything for Washington either or a San Francisco guy. So it would have been just literally naked Sam Howell, which is good for everybody.
No, thank you, please. But no, I think between Drake London and then honestly the possibility of Ritter just taking it himself with his legs, because he has 4.55 speed. He's not that guy like Sam Howell who they're like, oh, he can run, but when you see him on the field, he just looks slow as molasses. Ritter has like legit speed.
Yeah. Atlanta's going to be interesting because, what we're hoping for right now is somebody that's better than Marcus Mariota. It's not a high bar to cross. And we saw Desmond. I wish we had seen Desmond Ritter with the full complement at the end of last year, because obviously Kyle Pitts was out, and he was really just throwing to Drake London and the Little Sisters of the Poor around him. But yeah, so I was really hoping that we could do that. But I'm fine with Desmond Ritter. We know he obviously has rushing upside, and then we just some kind of uptick in efficiency for Drake London. I mean, a 50% target share is great but when you throw like 2 passes, it sucks. So, we're just hoping for just a little more volume. Like Arthur Smith, can we please just do something? My
Just like
Kyle
that
Pitts
meme.
shares demand it.
Yes. No. I'm still so undecided about Kyle Pitts, not because of his talent, but because of the just infuriating existence of Arthur Smith.
I will fill out a petition.org petition if Kyle Pitts and Drake London are just terrible because of the offense they play in. Like if they continue to run the ball into the Stone Age, or even run it more into like the Paleozoic era, I will write my congressman, see what we can do here.
I was going to say, do you just have to have 100,000 signatures for the president to respond? I'm pretty sure out of the fantasy community, we could get 100,000 signatures.
Oh, 100%. There's no doubt we can definitely get 100,000. At least we can do it.
Yes. I don't know if that's the number, but
we are all in solidarity here. This is like,
yes.
We could do like Hands Across America.
No! Shakes fist at the sky. Yep.
All right. Well,
so
we need a tight end. So
I like Gesicki or Hayden Hurst, either one of those guys.
You will never get an argument out of me for Mike Gesicki. That sucks. Yeah. No.
That was a kick in the balls.
30K. Jaws 30K. You have Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett, and then you take it back with Luke Musgrave. Do you even have a Minnesota Viking on your roster? No, you don't. You're taking a naked Luke. You took Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, and Matthew Stafford. You took 7,000 running backs. You took every other running back in this league. Tilted.
This is when we scream. Yeah, Sellers, we know your team looks wonderful. You know why? Because you stole my tight ends, buddy.
Sellers, you can win the regular season title. We can have 2 pizza parties. We can have the regular season pizza party. And then we can have the $3 million pizza party. So we'll do that. But yeah, not getting Musgrave there, Bill tilting, not gonna lie.
That sucked, man. But I think I'm okay with our team. I like what we did with, people are really down on Tua again because of the injury, but I think that, if you look at his actual metrics, if you remove that injury, this guy was a top quarterback in the entire NFL. From what he's done in the offseason by putting on weight, from learning how to fall, from improving the offensive line, I really like him paired up with Hill. I love the correlation that we got with Derrick Henry. Again, the correlation that we got with Madison and all the Packers on our roster. I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, we don't usually do the 3-4-8-3 build. It's definitely, I don't want to say out of our wheelhouse, but we do tend to, kind of maybe go toward an anchor build and then go from there and then take a bunch of running backs late. But, and then we really kind of punted quarterback more than we usually do. We usually take 2 solid options, but we took Tua was a mid-range option and then kind of paired him with Love and Desmond Ritter. So I do like that there. Sellers, you took Laporta for me. Well, as Jack would say, karma is a bitch. Pair that up pretty nicely, but we paired up this roster pretty nicely. Tua, Jordan Love, Desmond Ritter as a quarterback, Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, Alexander Madison, and Jerick McKinnon. Look, I talked about Alexander Madison, how I wrote the article on how to not draft him at ADP, and we did not draft him at ADP. We took him 11 spots after ADP. Everybody has a price. Do not take anybody completely off of your draft board, because there is a line where, all right, now it makes sense to draft this guy. This is where I get exposure to this player. And this is where I'm going to get exposure to Alexander Madison, 11 picks after ADP. So totally fine with that. And then Jerick McKinnon to kind of round out the running backs there. Tyreek Hill, Drake London, Mike Williams, George Pickens, Kadarius Toney, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Richie James, and then Sam Laporta, Chick Okonkwo, and Mike Gesicki. Britt, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think that you mentioned something really important that we don't necessarily hit on a lot of the time, and that is your exposure. When you're drafting as many best ball teams, when you're playing in as many redraft or dynasty, whatever it is, your exposure is important, because God forbid that you were wrong. Like I was last year on Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. Your entire roster is just completely trashed. And I think that in these best ball builds, especially in these big tournaments, getting a piece of a player that you didn't have a share of can kind of switch up, your fate, to be honest, at the very end of it. I love what we did there with Richie James. I know that his name is kind of just a guy, but he came on for the Giants. And in this mishmash of receivers that Kansas City has, why can't he be a guy? Why can't he be a guy? He doesn't have to be a guy every single week, but why can't he pop into your roster? I think he absolutely can. So I really like this build. I'm kind of bullish on it.
Yeah, like we know Kansas City plays literal like roulette with their wide receivers. Like, who's going to score this week? This has been a thing since like the Byron Pringle days and all these other just random wide receivers. It's literally spin the wheel, and whoever it lands on, lands on Mecole Hardman one week, it lands on Byron Pringle, lands on Noah Gray, lands on Joe Fortson. It could absolutely land on Richie James. Like, if Sky Moore isn't what we think Sky Moore is going to be, and obviously it's a way much better price. You're having to pay a 16th rounder versus a guy that's getting steamed up into the 8th. So if you want to play it that way and play that slot receiver game in Kansas City, like, it's completely ambiguous. It could be any of these guys, not MVS, he's trash, but it could be any one of those other guys. I will not, I will not relinquish the chance to slander MVS on these airwaves. But yeah, so our bet on Green Bay with the Minnesota bring back, I really do like here. We made a correlated bet on New England too with Gesicki and Ramondre. I mean, there's certainly paths to where those two could be the top 2 receivers in that offense. Like, it's totally feasible there.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we're close to the end. So before we go, make sure that you sign up for our All Pro package over at fantasyalarm.com/allpro. You get access to the Discord, and part of the Discord is this best ball channel. And make sure to like and subscribe. You can rewatch these episodes on the Fantasy Alarm and Better Sports Network YouTube page. And Kev, take us out.
Absolutely. For Britt Flinn, I'm Kevin Tompkins. Hopefully we'll have Andrew Cooper here next week. We'll see what happens with that. But for Britt, for Coop, I'm Kevin Tompkins. We will see Toodles and see you at the expo.